Okay. I'm going to call this meeting of the Arundel Planning Board to order. Today is September 6th, 2022. It's 7 p.m. We are in the municipal meeting room. I'll start with a roll call from the other end of the table.
Mike Kane.
James Lowry.
Paul Green.
Susan Roth.
And I'm Rich Ganong. We have a quorum, so we can have a legitimate meeting. We have on the agenda, we have the approval of the agenda, public comment, a public hearing on a subdivision regulation amendment, and 2 items of new business. The site plan amendment for Strickland Lane and a site plan application for timber frames. After that, we'll hear what the planner has for us, and then we'll all go home.
I make a motion, we accept the agenda.
Yay.
Motion was made by Paul Green and seconded by Marty Kane. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. The first item, public comment. This is the time that anyone from the public that would like to make a comment on an item that is not on the agenda. I'm assuming that from the massive lack of comment, no one has anything to say about any items. We will move right on. Public hearing, subdivision regulation amendment, 12(1)B, fire protection, a proposed amendment to the Arundel subdivision regulations regarding fire suppression. Does anyone from the public have any comments about this? Please step up and speak into the microphone. State your name clearly.
My name is Chip Bassett. I have several comments on the proposed regulations. I don't understand why fire ponds are being eliminated as an option.
We chose to, we did this for 2 reasons. One, the fire chief recommends it. He recommends that sprinklers only be the option to use. That's the primary one. The second one is cost.
What? I'm asking because there could be a situation where there's a pre-existing pond which could provide fire protection.
So if there's a pre-existing pond for fire protection purposes, that will continue to be allowed. It's not, this is not a retroactive regulation. This is only for projects going forward.
No, I understand that, but if there is a subdivision being built next to a pond that's already there, why can't that be used for fire
From that
prevention?
standpoint, the purpose of this is long-term maintenance and the cost to the community for maintaining those. If you have a drought situation like we have this year, the pond is dry, where's the water coming from? So the most logical situation is to now require individual homes that are being built in a subdivision to put in, when they're under construction, to put in independent fire suppression systems. That's the way most every community and every fire department is going these days.
Okay, that brings me to 2 points about sprinkler systems in Arundel, Maine. The first is almost every house in Arundel is on well water. A sprinkler head is a valve. Do you know what happens to valves and well systems that aren't used for 3, 4, 8 years, 10 years? They freeze up because of mineral deposits. So what good is a sprinkler system on a well? The other thing is, we live in Maine, last time I checked, and having water pipes in your ceiling is a pretty bad idea. So I guess my question is, when was the last time there was a house fire in Arundel?
Couldn't tell you.
It's probably been 8 or 10 years. The last one, I believe, was over on, what's the road that comes off?
And
Comes
that-
off Limerick and goes up
and
to
that- and
Liberty
that-
Acres.
And that fire started at an outside grill, not inside the house.
That's true.
So a sprinkler system would have been pretty much irrelevant.
The only other one I know from my time on the fire department was set. There was a 10-year-old little boy who liked to play with matches and he set a house on fire. I'm not saying that we don't have a lot. One of the reasons that we're looking at this is that it is NFPA regulations that the town has plans to adopt at some
I'm
point.
sorry,
and we want to
what
be-
is NFPA?
National Fire Protection Act. Those are the requirements that the fire department, that the national has said, these need to be part of your standards. They're already part of the standards in the state of Maine. Sprinklers are required under state law. We're simply codifying it to say that in Arundel, in subdivisions only, they're going to require it.
Time out. If sprinklers are required under state law, then I don't follow.
The Maine Uniform Building Code, MUBEC, is the building code that's been adopted at the state level, and every town that is over 4,000 people in population is required to maintain that code. And everybody that is under that code follows sprinkler systems for residential sprinkler.
And remember, this is only applying to
But-
subdivisions, not individual houses.
But, you know, getting back to the pond question, I don't understand why that can't be left open as an option.
Because from the pond point of view, that requires the town to maintain it, maintain the hydrants, to make sure that it runs effectively, and that is not cost effective for the town.
Okay, so having sprinkler heads that are gonna get fused up by mineral deposits from the well is better how?
I'll be bluntly honest with you, that becomes up to the discretion of the homeowner. It's their job to maintain the items in their house that work. It is not ours, not the town's.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing at 7:07. And we will move on to the next item on the agenda. Strickland Lane, amendment to an approved site plan to increase proposed new building size from 1,500 square feet to 2,400 square feet. Signature Holdings LLC is the owner and applicant, and Henry Hess RLA of Sebago Technics is the applicant's agent. The property is located off Portland Road on tax map 34, lot 3A.
Good evening. My name's Henry Hess, as Richard so kindly put it. I'm a landscape architect with Sebago Technics. With me tonight, Mr. Kevin Lord. This is the Strickland Lane property. Previously, this property or this project was approved earlier this year at the board level. What we're back here for, an amendment site plan, is actually a slightly enlarged garage. Previously proposed a 1,500 square foot garage, and now looking at here on the rendering, 2,400 square foot garage. Same use applies. Stormwater for the site is still being captured. The peak rates are still matching existing and proposed, or actually better than proposed conditions. So I guess that's why this project's back from the board tonight. So I try and keep it pretty short and sweet for you guys, but I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has. And
I don't know about anybody else. My question is, why wasn't this done originally? I looked at it, and went, okay, it's a 60% increase in the size, which is a significant increase.
Mhm.
But I don't know why it wasn't done back when we did it in July. That was it for me.
Well, I believe the answer there is just looking at it closer and saying, well, we'd like to make it a little bit- would like to make it a little bit larger and looking at it a little bit closer and pull a building permit for a slightly larger building. A larger garage, I should say.
Does the board have any questions?
Is there gonna be any utilities in there, water or anything else in that building?
Yeah, exactly the same as before.
And which way are you expanding it?
You can see, maybe it's a little tricky to see from over there. You'll see in white here, white was the original,
Yeah,
and in red is the extent of the proposed here. So it basically just moves this way a little bit.
Same use.
Same uses apply. That is the only item on the plan that's changed.
would you get a bigger toilet? Hmm?
My garage is never big enough.
I don't have any questions.
I only had the one. BJ, do we need a public hearing on this?
Yes.
Okay.
You could. It was borderline as to whether it should even come back to the board, but the size increase required it to come back would require public hearing.
Okay. If nobody else has any questions or anything, then we need a motion to set a public hearing.
So moved.
Pick a date.
Next meeting? Do
Next
we have
meeting?
enough time? 2 weeks?
We should have.
DJ?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that'll be
Second.
September 20th.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion made by Susan Roth, seconded by Paul Green to have a public hearing on this on the next meeting, which is the 20th. Other than that, we're all set to go. Yeah, we can vote after the meeting.
Yeah.
That's the normal practice. After we have the public hearing, we will, and unless there's a big outcry from the public about the whole thing, we'll vote right afterward.
Now, question. This is more or less an amendment to the plan,
This is,
but the fact is that stopping them if they want to start on the big building?
no. It only stops them from starting on the small building.
Thank you.
Thank you
buddy.
very much, gentlemen. I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Vote on that.
We just needed to schedule a
That's
public
it.
hearing.
The next item is a site plan application, timber frames by R.A. Kraus. Proposal to create a 5-acre lot from an existing 22-acre lot to locate a timber frame manufacturing business. The property is located on Portland Road on tax map 12 lot 6 in the BI zone. Richard Kraus is the owner applicant and Paul Gadboy PE is the applicant's agent. Take it away, Paul.
Yes, good evening. Richard Kraus, owner of Timber Frames, wants to relocate his business to this site, which is currently owned by DCB Properties, which is Marcel Bertrand. Marcel owns approximately 21 acres with frontage on Portland Road and also frontage on Log Cabin Road. We're proposing to purchase a 5-acre piece from that 21 acres. The biggest concerns that I had originally was potential vernal pools in the property. So we had Chris Colby go out there and take a look at the vernal pools during the breeding season and determined that they weren't significant. Took that paperwork, filed it with IFNW and Maine DEP, and they gave us back a response saying they're not significant. So we're trying to do the wetland crossing, obviously, to avoid the vernal pool because the Army Corps basically doesn't want us to do any direct impact to, even though that it's not significant, it still is a vernal pool. So the Army Corps basically won't take any jurisdiction as long as we have no direct impact on the existing pool. So we're proposing the driveway to fit at the narrowest crossing the wetland. So when I applied for the wetland permit, I can justify the location of the driveway to minimize the wetland fill to access the building site area. We have submitted an application, to MDOT, waiting for their response as far as approving the location of this driveway entrance on Portland Road. And the property is not located in a flood zone. It is, the proposed use is going to be manufacturing. The number of employees, I believe, is going to be 4. So basically, parking is designated by the number of employees in the maximum shift. I think I'm showing 6 parking spaces, so customers could come on the site, still have someplace to park. We're proposing it to be gravel, except for the paved apron, which I believe has to be to the property line, or I'll have to check, 40 feet, I can't remember what it is. But we will be paving the apron per code and also per MDOT requirements. The rest of the project will be gravel. The site is designed to actually handle tractor trailer truck traffic, so it can actually go around the building. The curb cuts are 40-foot radius south and I think a 50-foot radius north, so that the tractor trailer truck won't obviously cross the center line, making the entrance turn in, turn out. And this plan was sent to MDOT, so for their review. The other items, we're gonna have underground utilities, we're gonna have on-lot septic, and we're gonna have a drilled well, even though there is water on Portland Road. The applicant's electing to have an on-lot drilled well because he's trying to be, what's the word you're using? Off the grid. Because he's gonna go solar, they're gonna have solar, the building is kind of is southerly location, they can have solar panels on the roof, so he's trying to basically stay off the grid as far as utilities. The other biggest concern, I guess, that I probably would have is landscaping. Obviously, we're gonna keep all the entire site to the wetlands wooded. We're not gonna touch any of the property or any of the trees adjacent to Portland Road. That in itself, I think, will be a very good buffer, and we're just gonna clear for the entrance. So we're obviously, this is the ledge section, we're gonna leave that intact. Trees, obviously the wetlands is forested, so we're not gonna be touching any of the wetlands. I'm just looking at landscaping when it says in the BI district, as far as parking lots, it's supposed to be a 25-foot landscape strip. I assume this driveway access isn't really parking, so that 25-foot wouldn't apply in my thoughts, because right now, this is a 25-foot setback line. I'm trying to position the building so it fits between the ledge sections, also trying to fit it so that I can actually come up with a stormwater management and put the pond in the place that seems to make sense for the site. Is there room for me to move it, which would probably involve raising the building and maybe some blasting possibly? So I guess I'm really concerned about, right now, I might be 20 feet from edge of gravel to the property line. This site is vacant. It's a non-residential use this time, and it's business zone, so I'm assuming it's not gonna be a residential use. It'll be whoever comes in front of the board. It'll be a business. I'm not sure what type of business. And I know though that also it says that we have to have a 15-foot wide buffer. So if I do have my gravel at this location, I have to grade that off. I probably won't, I'll probably be grading it pretty much to the property line, and the buffer would be grass, or unless I planted some trees, which I don't think I have a problem with that. But so I guess I'm a little concerned about how I'm gonna, the buffer requirements. It sounds like it has to be 15 feet. And a buffer is pretty heavy duty as far as visual appearance. So in this area, if I have to grade this out to the property line for the gravel and then put a slight berm, because I think I'm gonna have to have a slight berm for this pond to capture this area. Hopefully I may not need that pond. This gravel will be discharging in that direction. It is a different watershed, unfortunately. So then I can drive it to a small pond, send it to the wetlands, and this pond hopefully will take care of the pre and post at this location. So I have to work that out, but I do believe I might need a small pond here. I may not be able to let the water just sheet flow in that direction without meeting the pre and post development flow. So meaning I'd probably create a berm So the water would hit the berm, a shell swale to get to this location and a culvert to the wetland. Or worst case scenario, I may have to put a culvert to the other pond if I can't make the flows work. So that's kind of my quickly scenario, and that would be my biggest hangup, how to deal with that 15-foot wide landscape buffer. I know I can put a fence up, so I could probably put a shallow berm and a fence, and that probably would satisfy the buffer, but
So I've got a question. Paul.
Yes.
How wide is the road, the private driveway coming in off of Portland?
30
Road?
feet,
How wide?
30 feet.
30 feet, okay. Because I
It
know
has to
you've
be
got
actually-
big trucks.
It really has to be 30 feet in order to make that turn. I had it at 24, but the truck really has to be 15 in the center line at 30 feet in order to make that radius work. At 24, this has to be a larger radius.
So the
So I have
trucks
to-
would have to come in, because some of them are quite large. I've seen them.
Yeah, there'll be, this
Down
is
on
for a
Center Road.
65-foot tractor trailer.
So they would have to go all the way around the building in order to be able to exit.
Yes.
Right? So they would unload
Well,
come
you
around
know,
the
that's
building.
the goal. Yes, it would drive in, come around the building and
and
leave.
exit.
Correct.
Okay.
Could they come in, back up and leave? Probably, but why would they?
So I have another
Yep.
question, and anyone interrupt me. So this is for the sole use of timber frames. And
That's my
is the
understanding.
property subdividable?
The Timber Frames property?
Yes,
No.
the 5 acres. So
No,
that,
because it has the,
that
it has the
driveway-
minimum, it has the minimum road frontage or a little bit more than the minimum road frontage that it needs. So for it to become a new lot, we'd actually have to build a private way to get the frontage. And I don't think that's ever gonna happen or even try to happen.
okay, I was just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, so I didn't make it 30 feet to hopefully move on to another level. What are you thinking?
Uh-huh. Well, no, I also know the size of the trucks.
Yes,
So you need space.
yes.
Paul, how far is the building set off from Route 1? It looks like it's quite a distance. It's
1 was 40, so. you know,
Ballparking.
Talking. 160 feet, probably 300 feet.
So it's really not even gonna be visible from.
No, you're not gonna see it. If I leave all this existing
Yeah.
vegetation, I don't believe you're gonna see it. And the building's, I think, not a bad looking building. Just put it in the packet. Still gonna be cedar shingles, what you're showing.
I mean, is there any chance of my son can sit up here? with you
Of
guys?
course.
You can ask him. Yeah, this is Chris, I'm Richard, the owner, but he's
You,
obviously gonna be taking over, so if you have any company questions and history questions, you know, definitely.
Or building question.
so, you know, I didn't bring all the elevations. I didn't think I gave it to you in the packet. You
Yeah,
know, the back elevation, the side elevation. This is the elevation facing Route 1. And the rear is pretty much opposite. Oh, thank you.
We're gonna build a showpiece for us. and it's gonna be Yeah, the goal is where we're set right now, we're in the woods, and that's kind of like part of our MO company is like, we don't advertise, we're small, we want to stay small, but we need a little bit more room. We need to, you know, we've always been the only ones back there, but Tick-Home Lane has expanded in the last couple of years. So now it's gotten a little, you know, there's a little more traffic than what we were used to back in the day. So the goal with this 5 acres is to only put this building on there so that we can be out in our own space again, essentially.
So will your operation continue to operate on Titcomb Lane in addition to this property?
We're fully moving everything out. Essentially, because the way that Titcomb Lane works right now is it's split property between my parents' residential and then our commercial side. So we're trying to give my dad space for his RVs to go in. We just need to grow, but not in the sense of grow the company bigger. We need a little more space to operate a little more fluidly. And the biggest thing with us is, you know, we do have a lot of, like you've seen on Center Road, we have the 18-wheelers, but it's only 1 or 2 a month that come in because those are kind of the turnover of our projects. So we want to have the ability to bring the 18-wheeler in way off of Route 1, so we're not, you know, causing any traffic issues, because that's kind of been my biggest concern with the way we operate currently. So we're trying to help
It's never terrible.
that.
So,
The DOT won't be as forgiving.
Yeah,
a Portland Road.
right. Yeah, they wouldn't be too happy.
So I have a couple of questions for you, Paul. Just looking, when I first saw this, it talks about this being built on a 5-acre lot.
Yep.
But according to the application or the site plan pre-app review on page 13, this is 21.8 acres.
That's the total site of the property. DCB probably owns 21.8 acres.
But
The applicant-
I
the
thought,
applicant has
are you
purchased
buying the
sales.
entire piece of property? I thought you were just buying 5 acres. from-
Yeah, so Marcel is parceling off 5 acres for just for our purposes, because that lot, the way it's split right now, is that back half is a residential use, and the front half is commercial use. It's the
Okay.
way that it was combined back when he purchased it, and he's tried to keep it so the back half essentially stays the way it is. He doesn't plan on doing anything with it. And the front half, he just had the idea of, we own, 5 acres is honestly a little bit more than we need, but it's what we need for our road frontage.
Yep.
So that's kind of the minimum agreement that we've come up with Marcel for the parcel we're after. And then he's gonna keep the remaining, if it's 28, yeah, something like that, for himself or, Marcel.
And that would come in off of log cabin.
The log cabin is the residential part, so you
Right.
can't run any commercial traffic.
Right, right. But if he was to develop, if he was
Yeah,
gonna develop
yeah.
that, it would come
I can't say.
into log
I
cabin
can't say
and
if
not,
it's or not, yeah.
not through your
No.
driveway.
I don't have the entire site. I might,
Yeah.
the,
Well, he has
Marcel-
access to it.
Marcel owns this piece of property right here, which has access from Technology Drive. So this section of the property that's in the BI zone will be transferred to the parcel that Marcel has of Technology Drive. The residential zone is hoping to sell off, so it'll be just residential property, with access from Old Post Road. So this is the BI residential zone, so there's probably, 10 acres in the BI zone and roughly 10 acres or 16 acres in the residential zone. So I think his plan is, he bought the property to pretty much have additional acreage for this existing lot he has here that he can utilize. But obviously, he's got a pretty good going here with the Kraus here. Myself building a house to a post and beam house, and they build post and beam homes, and I think that Marcel, and they need a piece of property, so Marcel and them got together and says, would you be interested in buying 5 acres of the 21 acre parcel?
We've been looking for a long time. It's been really tough. Rumble was only 111 and it didn't work. Ourselves, it's just worked out awesome. What he does, similar to what we're gonna be heading in that direction with CMC, because we said he can't cut by hand anymore. We do, but it's tough with the feet. So obviously we'll be going down that. Not very often. Yeah, he's been great guy. Awesome.
Yeah.
Super, gonna be a great neighbor.
Chip, you had a question?
Some comments.
Okay.
I've residents. By the way, off the Senate Road, which is on the 2-lot road, and it's in our board conservation. Yeah, frankly, that detail, the license under which timber operates. So. Maybe the question I have. Will that license, whatever means, it was very low, if I business off particular lane, will that license be contained? Or they were very- that license proper lane?
As you know, if it's operated, if it continues in operation, then yes, that license will stay there. But if they stop operation, 2 years to the day after they stop, that license disappears. And it reverts back to residential property.
It reverts to whatever is allowed in that.
In that,
R4.
that's correct.
That was part of the big deal with us. In '85 was when we started the company back in there. And in 1990 is when, roughly 90 is when our neighbors complained. So that's when we had to come before you people and be approved for our company. So now we're on 2 tax bills, us personally and the business. So we were approved for 6 days a week, 75, blah, blah, blah. It was a big deal. It was huge. I mean, his father, Charlie, he was for it a lot to help my company grow, but then again, he wasn't too excited that where we were located was gonna become a business. Because like they potentially could sell our land and say, hey, man, this is owned for business. We got it, right? But, so we have been permitted back there to do what we did. Yeah. No, I think the thing is to get us 100% there, but it's gonna take some time. And the offices, which are in our barn right now, our office probably will remain for at least a couple of years. But that's not truck traffic, so that's the way I see it. I mean, we're all about moving.
Yeah, we
I've
do.
been working out of my backyard because day one, it's kind of fun.
We do have new offices proposed in this space as well, with like an area for clients. I think, the biggest thing is we want to get the workspace up and running first so we can get that traffic away. The guys who work for us don't necessarily like helping my mom with her garden all the time. They put up with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody on Take-Home Lane should especially. It's gonna be big for everybody.
Does the board have any other questions at this point? Okay, and again,
No, I think just for Lee J's standpoint, to provide some clarification at our next meeting on the setback and buffer.
Yeah,
requirements.
so, yes, I am gonna look a little deeper because I couldn't find where I was looking for that. Normally, what would be done is the applicant could request waivers of those performance standards. And the justification is to why, and I think there's a clear justification as to why some of those waivers should be granted. But I can't seem to put my finger on the waiver requested standard, so I would make sure that once the application comes in, that we do that. Paul needs to provide us with waiver request anyway on that to make sure that we're seeking that.
Yeah.
The other piece, while I have the floor on this, just to be aware, is that you now have, the clock is now ticking. And you have talked with DEP and Army Corps about your permitting there. So you have, say, 60 days or 90 days.
Time frame.
um,
I don't get it.
Come scheduled to submit an application for completeness. So it says the application has to be submitted and filed complete within 6 months from submission, from the submission. But there is no time frame for sketch.
Oh, good. Perfect.
So you want to be aware of that, but also the timing of your permitting with DEP and Army Corps. Will only get, under the ordinance, will only get 2 30-day extensions. So once you're found complete, then you have everything going on.
Yeah, no, I think if everybody seems to be agreeable to the sketch and the buffer, well, we'll deal with that. I'm applying for DOT permit right now. I'm not doing any stormwater until I know that DOT is approving the entrance.
Sure.
Location of the entrance, because grading is all a factor of where the location of the entrance is. And as soon as I get DOT permission, I'm gonna apply for the wetland fill permits. That's the only thing I need is actually a wetland fill permit. And I gotta send out the DEP notice of intent to file, which is just basically mail it out, because I'm over less than 5 acres and less than an acre of impervious. And the Army Corps is, it won't be a DEP wetland fill permit because I'm only filling 3,000 square feet. And my soil scientist will confirm that it's not a wetland of special significance. If it is, then obviously I'm not exempt from DEP, I'll have to file. So I'm thinking it's just gonna be an ACE permit, and that's just basically a, 30 to 60-day turnaround.
Yeah.
So I'll have all that stuff filed before I come back at the next meeting.
Yeah, just wanted you. to-
Thank you.
Timing and such.
Yeah,
Be kind of making sure that.
Yeah,
changes are fine.
if it's a DEP stormwater permit, I think I'd make sure I was pretty well into it before I would have submitted. Yeah. Thank you so much.
And
Any
we'll-
other
Now,
questions?
Paul, you said where you situated this, is it
Yeah.
the three knolls that I'm looking at on the
Yes.
topo, they're all ledge?
Ledge, oh yeah, those
Yeah,
are,
so I'm looking at the two sort of by the ponds and then one to the,
this is a huge outcrop,
yep, outcrop by
Outcrop.
pond two.
outcrops,
Yep, that's the one. I was thinking.
outcrops.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so, very nice, if you like outcrops. It's really beautiful,
Might as well go fit plastic, level the whole thing.
right?
It's really easy, like, yeah, for your company, maybe.
Probably won't be on our ground. But we're gonna control the work with the plants and make it, creative and not. We've already shrunk the building, just so you know, make it fit for all. Would have been, it works.
Now, is this where the property, is this where the old Eagles Club used to be? And the book-
Yeah, Eagle Club is the
No,
next one.
not the present one.
Oh, oh, yes, that was right up, I think that was the entrance to the old Eagle Club right there, that gravel.
That's the abutting, that's the
Right.
abutting property.
Not the current Eagles.
No, there's still property between us and the current Eagle Club.
Oh, there is, I can't,
Yeah.
the old, is the Eagle
Well,
Club?
the little piece of paved driveway where the restaurant was back in the day, that's our neighbor. Whoever somebody bought that.
The restaurant?
Back in the eighties or
Oh.
early seventies, there was a restaurant there.
There's on Route 1 right now, there's still a for sale sign on that lot that's next to the Eagles
Right,
Club.
yep.
That was the old Eagles?
Yeah, we're next to that lot,
So you're closer to,
Marcel,
huh?
closer to Marcel.
Closer to
Technology Drive.
We're right across from, is that the an accountant, or what was it, what's that
There was
business?
no cat over there.
I don't know.
Oh, probably, maybe in the
So
winter.
that's his
you see the
driveway?
top of our building, because there is an outcropping. right
No,
there.
I'm not worrying about seeing that. I'm just trying to
See what
picture
it is,
it.
Yeah.
I mean, along Route 1, that's all now.
Yep.
You know. But how did, you said you, something about Technology Drive?
Technology Drive's right here.
Okay,
This is Marcel's land that abuts Technology Drive. So Technology Drive comes in right in here, and this piece will actually be conveyed to that piece eventually.
See, we were all debating that. I thought it was gonna be on the left side of the circle up at the end of Technology Drive.
We
Yeah.
originally talked with him about that piece of lot, that lot, but he suggested this one. Better way.
He may grow.
Well-
His business may grow.
grow.
Well, with any luck, it will.
Yeah,
Probably will.
he seems like-
Okay, I think the only other thing that we'll end up at this point, once you come back with the application, we'll end up scheduling a site walk and we'll ask you to stake out the building. Is there anything else, gentlemen? No?
Thank you so
Very
much.
good.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you. And the next item is the planner's report. Have at it, Mr. Planner.
Okay, so first,
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
so, first thing, of course, is that, I think it's, in all seriousness, so on the agenda, you had your public hearing tonight for the, fire suppression issue, but you had no action item. I don't think that was by design. So also under planning report, just to let you know, I have gotten a request for a partial bond release on Molly's Way, which is Oak Ridge Terrace. They've been going full bore up there. They've actually been getting building permits up on phase 2. PH2M has been doing the inspections on that. They have recommended a partial release of that, so we're gonna be jumping down that bond, but there's still work to be done there. According to PH2M, I have not personally.
Where is this again?
Oak Ridge. Phase
Walter
2.
Woods.
Oak Woods, excuse me, Oak Woods, phase 2.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, there's trucks and equipment running every day up there, I can hear it.
Yep, yep. Also, a heads up, although I'll be able to provide you, reports and whatnot. I have commitments in October, so I will not be available for either meeting in October. Get whatever reports needed for those meetings. So that you have something to look at. Other than that, yes, I mentioned it quickly, but Anne was ill for a little bit. She's doing fine now, but 3 weeks out of work. That's behind the 8 ball a little bit, so I apologize if there's an issue. Other than that, I think we're just moving along, and we just keep seeing projects coming up. I've met with some other developers about some other projects, and so things are still moving.
Anything on the tennis court?
Nothing on the tennis court. I think they're still waiting for their DEP permits, so
And
they don't
no-
get caught. in that.
And nothing on Vinegar Hill?
I have nothing at this time to report.
Because they're still going gangbusters.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, they're even advertising on TV.
yeah, so, quick question for you,
Yes.
Jay. So with this water suppression system sprinklers in the residences, is it something that we have to approve? Or is it, and is the only other option fire ponds, and we can't designate, if we don't want to have to maintain the fire ponds, can we insist on cisterns as opposed to the,
So here's the whole issue, just as a debrief. First off, let me go back, because there was a question asked at the last meeting we had on this. How many is the town maintaining? How many cisterns?
Right.
We are currently maintaining 15.
15 cisterns.
15 cisterns on a very small fire department staff. So the issue is not that we are required and we must do this. It's more of a desire to move towards this, because this is where the rest of the state is going, and the state code does recommend that you go to sprinkler systems for residential uses. So the fire chief is trying to move away from the pond issue and the cistern issue, because we are maintaining so many on a small staff, because in a drought situation, if you pull up to a fire where you think you got a pond, you're not gonna have a pond, baby. And the same with the cisterns, you know, if those aren't maintained over time or checked, they can crack, they can dry up. Who's filling them with the water? How long are they holding water for? Whereas if it becomes an issue for the homeowner to maintain, or tap directly into their well, then the home will have the suppression system. Understand, these are not suppression systems to save a house from burning to the ground. It is a fire suppression system to delay that till the fire department can get on scene. They're still going to probably show up with tanker trucks and water, but it's to slow that burn so that they can get on scene and hopefully save the house. But they are not meant to, in themselves, save the house.
but,
Life safety.
Correct.
but Chip was not incorrect. I mean, I think I raised this last time about what happens to these sprinkler systems depending upon the water that's, runs through it. And it might just be in its own way as problematic as maintaining a cistern. And I wonder if people opt to have the cisterns and they have to be maintained by the town of Arundel, that there isn't some fee or that the residential, the owner or the developer doesn't pay.
Oh, it would be the HOA probably.
Right,
If there's an HOA.
That
so-
underwrites the inspection and the maintenance of the cistern systems and then file a completion report, so on and so forth. Is
So-
that just more paperwork and more
If,
headache?
if you look at maintenance on a home, you have your furnace maintained every year. Have your sprinkler system tested. It's not gonna be that expensive to have somebody come in there and make sure that it works properly.
Checking the
So,
sprinkler heads is no worse than your faucets. It's the same thing.
Yeah, turn them on, make sure they
If you
work.
have an issue with your faucets, you probably have an issue with your sprinkler system valves and you want to change them out. If you have a filtering system on your house, you don't have that problem,
Right. Understand.
you know? If your well water's that bad and you're running it without a filtering system, then you're a fool.
Well, I mean, you know.
How do you really feel
It
about
is an
that, Bob?
interesting question. and It is,
It's
I mean,
hard.
these systems are charged, but it's not like water is coming through the sprinkler nozzles, so they're not getting mineralized over time. But, you know, the big issue, the big question is, we don't know the answer. I'm gonna say I don't know the answer. Let's put it that way, so I can take the hit if it anything. But, you know, if it takes 10 years or thereabouts for, if mineralization is to clog these things, we don't know. And we're not gonna know unless they're put into use in town. And you're out 10 years. Well, that's like looking into the future and saying, well, but, you know, a pipe could burst.
Mhm.
Yeah, a pipe could burst. You know, your domestic water line could burst. So the fire, you know, all the fire departments are feeling that this is the first line of defense and best line of defense to be able to maintain longevity of a home that may catch fire.
And I think, Paul,
Or a dry system.
the point being, it's not to put that fire in your house out. It is to save your life, because if you don't have them in there, you may burn to death before the fire department gets there to get you out of the house.
Or smoke inhalation.
Yeah, smoke inhalation might do it. You want some way out of the house, and sprinklers right now provide the best technology to be able to get you out.
I was just thinking, a lot of these developments are probably in municipalities that have city water.
Domestic, yeah.
Yeah, so that,
I think there's both. There's a number of towns that have adopted this. Waterboro, I do all the planning work for Waterboro. They do not have a lot of domestic water. They do have some. But the whole town is not water, and they are requiring sprinkler systems throughout it as well. I'm sure there are others.
I'm sure we
No, I
can.
think it's a fair question. And it was, you know, I mean, I think he made some fair points.
It's an added cost, but you know what? So was underground utilities.
Mhm.
That was an added cost, but we thought it was the right thing to do because overall, in the long run, it's gonna save money.
I just think of sprinkler systems going off by accident and completely, wetting everything that's in the house, unnecessarily. And what a nightmare that is too. So,
But it's also an opportunity. Your insurance kicks in and your wife gets to remote. At least in my house, anyway.
So, yes, I mean, and that could happen.
well, I don't want to remodel. I just built it, so.
And that could happen even if you were requiring sprinklers, but on the public water supply.
Right.
So.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah. Okay.
It's,
whenever
And
they're
it's
finding
only for
that-
developments. It's not for
Correct.
single
Only
residences. So,
Correct.
So,
it's usually the cost. of the
Does
dispersal.
season
we-
cottage have sprinklers?
I don't know what they have.
I don't remember, that's why I'm asking.
Is what?
Season cottages.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they have.
I believe they do. I believe they put sprinklers in the cottages.
In lieu of any kind of
Yeah.
fire pond or cistern.
I thought they had cisterns, but That could be. a
They're
problem.
on public water. I mean, they got regular water. I mean, so I mean,
Yeah, I think their systems are not, they're not water, they're chemical.
I thought by their clubhouse and everything like that, where they were putting in the pool, another pool or whatever they were doing, that there was a huge cistern there too, but I could be mistaken, so.
cisterns, no, I don't.
There's a huge leach bed over there.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
a
that too.
really big leach bed.
Yes.
So should we vote on this? I need,
I want to say you can, but since it's not on the agenda, I'd rather just wait till the next.
okay,
next
yeah,
meeting.
we can wait.
I wrote a note on my notes here for Ann to make sure that it's on as an action item.
Okay.
Yeah. That way there's no question.
Not a problem.
Is that it?
Is that it?
That is it.
I move we adjourn.
Second.